Okay, good morning everyone.
I will maybe to take the no.
Okay, good morning everyone. Hope you had a pleasant evening and night and that you had the opportunity to rest. Now we'll have a full day of discussions in the morning and visits in the afternoon. So I will just go through the program for today and then I will introduce the different people that will present this morning. So in the morning we will have 2 presentations, then a coffee break, then 2 presentations, then lunch. We are still deciding where we are going to have lunch, if we have lunch here or if we go where we went yesterday, but I will let you know when the time arrives. And then at 3 we go to Paris because we are going to visit the Musée Guimet in the afternoon. Okay, that we have to be there at 4, and then we will have a guided visit for 1 hour and a half, and then we will meet at a restaurant at 7 p.m. So this is in a nutshell the program for today. Now we will start with 2 presentations this morning. Okay, Cécile from Excelia Business School. She will be presenting Waterscape, a philosophical perspective, and then she will be followed by Pierre Barré, also from Excelia, making sense of water conservation, the performative nature of management tools. Then we'll do the coffee break. So, Cécile, between each presentation we will have a period of questions and answers. So basically what we thought is 25 minutes presentation, then 20 minutes of discussion, and then we go to the other presentation. Okay, so we welcome the exchanges, highly in the spirit of the CIPSH Academy, that we can all engage in fruitful discussions. Okay, thank you. So, Cécile.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here, very honored to participate to this CIPSH seminar. And in fact, I'm very happy also to have this opportunity to work and to make this philosophical exploration of waterscape, because before the seminar it was not obvious for me that it was really something that I can do research on. Waterscape was very close to my heart because I am from Brittany in France, which is on the west coast of France, and it's a region where full of fishermen village. Painters are painting the sea, and there is also not a lot of industrial assets, but they are all linked to the sea. So it's a region where you know that you live with the sea, not only at the sea, but with the sea and thanks to the sea. But I had never thought that I could do research on waterscape, so thank you again. So what I will do in this presentation is try to show how waterscape can help us to do philosophy. So with several interests in mind. So you will see that the waterscape, in the sense of more of the maritime or aquatic environment than on really waterscape, has a special connection with philosophy, since the birth of philosophy, and in particular of metaphysics, is supposed to be linked with water and with waterscape. So this will be my first part, the metaphysical part of waterscape. Then I will explore how this relationship with the sea also feeds ethical questioning in philosophy. So metaphysics is really the branch of the philosophy that questions the existence of things, events, beings, beyond their material appearance, whereas ethics is more grounded in action on field. And it's interesting to see that waterscape can fuel philosophy in both ways. And then I will conclude on how this waterscape philosophical perspective can help us to engage us in a political reflection. So how can we see waterscape? Waterscape can help us make philosophy. I will propose this approach from three angles. So what the special links between the water environment and philosophy metaphysics consist of, then how they fuel our ethical reflection, and then finally how it can shed light on our responsibilities in terms of ecological, political sustainability. So, yes, and it's a bit strange, you will see. My presentation is full of paintings. It's a kind of introduction to your visit to Musée d'Orsay. But it's not for a philosophical perspective, it's more illustrative, but I think that painting also is a way to think. So and you'll see all my favorite painters. The first one is Rivière, and it's the Tempest. But I will start now. So first, the sea. So the marine environment or waterscape is a source of philosophical questioning. Why? In this introduction to the history of philosophy, the German philosopher Hegel discusses the geographical location and maritime activities of the Greeks. And Hegel contrasts Greece, turned toward the sea, which allows for communication, diversity of exchange, and therefore the university of the spirit, with other civilizations more grounded in agriculture such as Egypt or China, ancient Egypt and China, which, according to him, remain attached to stability, tradition, and particularity. And he refers to the island of Samos as the birthplace of philosophy. So these ideas is also developed by Nietzsche in the Twilight of the Idols, where he also sees this relationship with the sea, exploration, trade, and contact with other people as a reason why the Greeks developed an open, mobile, and speculative way of thinking, conducive to abstraction and philosophy. Thus, according to Hegel and Nietzsche, the sea, a space of horizon and movement, fostered the Greeks a universal vision detached from the particular, which is a condition for philosophical thought. And this idea is not only taken by philosophers. You will have also but I'm not an anthropologist, but maybe we will have the opportunity to discuss about this after. But there seems to be a link with with the university movement and abstraction, and on the other hand, land, particularity, stability, and more empirical way of seeing the world. The second point I want to focus on in this first part is water as a principle. It's not the same thing as the link with universality, but it has a connection. And this is, here I will refer to Aristotle in his Metaphysics, when he refers to Thales, who took water as his principle and is often considered as a first philosopher because he sought to explain by principles natural phenomena. I quote Aristotle: Thales, the founder of this way of doing philosophy, takes water as his principle. And that is why he claimed that the earth rests on water, probably led to his opinion. That is why he claimed that the earth rested on water, probably led to this opinion because he had observed that moisture is the nourishment of all beings. So this way to think water as a principle in philosophy has of course links with what we can see in natural science, but here again I'm not an expert, but I was surprised because doing this exploration I read I don't know if you have read this book of Rachel Carson, The Sea Around Us, where she explains all what she knows about ocean in the beginning of the 50s. But it's really connected with what Aristotle said about Thales. I quote Rachel Carson. It's really a marvelous book. And she explained in the first chapter, she explained how life has started on Earth, and it was not on Earth, it was in the ocean. And she writes, once, finally, for the first time, the sun broke through and shone on the waters. Some of the living organisms floating on the sea then had to develop the magic of chlorophyll within themselves, enabling them to assimilate carbon dioxide from the air and seawater, and from these elements formed under sunlight the organic substance necessary for their existence. Thus were born the first plants. So it's really interesting, this text, because she then explained the relationship, how we are so connected with water, plants, animals, and human beings. And finally, she explained that maybe when we go back to water, when we go back to the sea, there is this, we contemplate maybe our origin. So that may also give an explanation why there is this link between waterscape and the way we do philosophy in a very metaphysical way. And sea is sea or waterscape, because it's not only the sea. I put here the Nymphaea of Monet and Giverny, so it can be also lake or river. It's really a place which is not auspicious, but adjusted to contemplation. And here, this is my final point I want to address here. This way, I found many examples of philosophers taking water as a space for contemplation. I will only give two. The first one is in Leibniz, New Essay on Human Understanding, where Leibniz used the example of waves in the sea to convey the small perception that allow us to identify the parts of a whole. So he said that to better judge the small perception that we cannot distinguish in the crowd, I usually use the example of the sound of the sea that strikes us when we are onto the shore. He explained that if we cannot we must be affected somewhat by the movement of this wave and have some perception of each of these sounds, however small they may be. Otherwise, we would not have that of 100,000 waves. For 100,000, nothing cannot make anything. So it's really a way to see the connection between what is very small and the infinite. So this is also why I will not take the other example because I will run out of time. But just to summarize, what I wanted to say in this first part is that waterscape is really a privileged space for philosophical questioning and to give access to what can be the infinite, the universal, the principle. And if I can make a connection with what I teach in Excelia, I teach like Pierre, but I'm doing more of this teaching is the courses in, and Nuno also has been involved, so it's really an important course in Excelia. It's about ethics, business ethics. And one thing we try to share with students is the importance of universality. Not being not the Western and imperialist way of thinking about universality, but the fact that there is universal human value, and that it's important, even if we do business, to have this perception and to be able to try to make a consensus on this kind of value. So the second thing the second step of my exploration was less metaphysical and more based on what we do in business ethics, ethics. Because a sailing trip is also a kind of ethical test or ethical way to practice. So it's not only in philosophy, also in literature. If you think about Shakespeare Tempest or in Moby Dick that we evoked yesterday, storms often serve as a philosophical laboratory for questioning human vulnerability and the meaning of life and the place of ethics in life. I will take the example, which is very well known, of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who recounts an anecdote or a story of a Stoic thinker caught in a storm at sea, and in fact he said that the Stoic was very very pale, very full of fear, but he asserts that fear is an involuntary physical reaction and that only moral reason matters. So I will quote, "When, during a crossing, the ship is caught in a storm and the sails flap, even the wise man turns pale. This is not cowardice, but a natural and inevitable movement of the body. What is up to us is whether or not to give our assent to this representation." And you will find also this example in Sénèque when he speaks about virtue, and this text and this reference has been commented at length by Pierre Hadot, French philosopher who is really a specialist of Stoicism, and also Martha Nussbaum in the Therapy of Desire, also to analyze this passage by revealing the Stoic therapy, the way that Stoicians can recognize human fragility, but at the same time overcome it through practical reason and ethics. And here also it's something that we taught in Excelia to our students. We told them that they will be in situation that will not be comfortable, that they will have to suffer sometimes very, very complicated issue in companies. But this is not a reason to stay just without making anything, without reasoning. It's because that's why they are doing studies, to be able, if they are in a storm in a company, to be able to take a step back and to be able to distinguish what they suffer from and what they can do. And it's not only a question of thinking and reasoning, but it's also a question of action. And this will be a transition from with the last part. The second point I want to focus on in this second part was the fact that the infinity of the sea is a source. It can give us some vertigo, but it's also a metaphor of our radical freedom. And here I know that there is a specialist of Kierkegaard in the room, so I will be short, but Jacob, you can correct me if I'm wrong. A good metaphor of this is well expressed by Kierkegaard in his postscriptum for philosophical fragment, where he compared the existence as an infinite sea. Existence is an infinite sea, and certainly is a harbor where there is no harbor. Thus, the man who wants absolute assurance, who wants to find a definitive anchor, resembles to the man who wants to sail without ever leaving harbor. Or better yet, the man who seeks a harbor that doesn't exist. To sail is to exist, but to exist is to face the vertigo of infinity, without guarantee, without certainty, without refuge. So it's a bit. Kierkegaard was a very anxious man, but at the same time, I think it's an appeal to take our freedom as something we can use to live in a human way. So I will, and this existentialist perspective on the waterscape can also inspire some our freedom, but also some responsibility. I will refer here to a new book, quite recent book of the French philosopher Corinne Pelluchon, but I'm not sure it has been translated in English yet, but it will soon be, I'm sure. It is called, in French, L'être et la mer, and in English, I think, Being and the Sea. And it's very interesting because she proposed to consider the human condition in the light of the aquatic element, and not from the earth, but from the sea. So it's a radical decentering of that can result from this kind of marine ontology that will allow us to identify new extension and to think about our condition in a new light. So it can be a kind of vertigo, but it's also open spaces for new things we can think about, and new norms, new type of action, new type of organization. So this will be yes, I will close on this, I think. I think waterscape can also be a metaphor of our freedom of action. We could say only freedom. Freedom, as Hegel was. I come back to Hegel here because he also said in the same passage about the Greek that the sea gives us the idea of the indefinite, the limited, and of that which is of that which is absolutely free. So if we are in relationship with the sea, we will cultivate this freedom. This is a radical freedom which has no political meaning, and we can also have a perception of freedom which will be more in the aesthetic fields, poetic fields, as Bachelard could inspire us to think about water as a source of poetic inspiration. But I think, and maybe it's because I am in a business school, so we have many opportunities to see our responsibility to build new infrastructure, to build new innovation. So I'm more focused on this responsibility than on this aesthetic or radical freedom when I speak about freedom. But I will conclude on this. I think we can really use the power of our imagination, of our reason, to find new solutions to take our responsibility regarding the sustainability of waterscape, because it's not only of the oceans but also on all the cultural dimension of this waterscape that sustain humanity. So it's not easy. It's not easy for philosophers. When I refer to the book of Corinne Piluchon, at the same time I was very inspired by this new way of thinking ontologically, but I was a bit disappointed by the fact that she doesn't give any solution. And I also refer to one of my thesis director, Jean-Philippe Pierron, who is also a philosopher who has who has worked a lot on water, and who said that we have to learn to think like a river and to use the power of imagination to build new way of discussing about this issue to find solution. But again, it's not how do you say, a clé en main solution. We still have to build them. And here I will maybe refer as a conclusion to what we do with our students in Excelia when there is not the ethical class, but it's another class called Environmental Innovation and Resilience. And for this class, we work with a third place based in La Rochelle, who is really on the circular economy of food, working with the Arbor of La Rochelle, and we make students work on new solution, new innovation that can be societal innovation, not only business good business model for making money, but really resilient innovation that can help us to find solution for society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Questions, points for discussion? Valentina?
Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. I was wondering, you mentioned a French philosopher that changed the point of view, seeing water from the ocean's perspective, more than from the land perspective.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate a little bit more?
Yes.
I'm very curious about this change of the point of view.
In fact, what she says is that when we think about our nature as human beings based on a land that we can measure, that we can cultivate, that we can control completely, it's quite different that when you I would say it's really the perception we had in philosophy for years, for centuries, like Descartes, who wanted to be the master of nature. And when you take the ocean perspective, she said that you can think about submersion. You have to think that you are in relationship with water. You cannot be independent. You cannot control water as you can control land. So that is why the fact to think human beings in relationship with water, and as also only a part of all the species that are living with water and from water, it's a very different perspective. And it's also it's not only being more humble compared to nature, but it's also being more conscious that we are really interdependent. And maybe I can give another example which is more real. It's a research project I have conducted in Brittany recently, in a third place, another one, which is in a land that will become an island soon, because it will be the road will be underwater in 30 years. And they experiment how we have to stop control the water as we have done since 40 years. We have to learn how to play with it and to let it go. And it will be another perspective in terms of innovation. You don't resist to ocean because I mean, sea is far bigger, far stronger than us. But you try to play, to see how we can live with the ocean and not against it. So that's an illustration in a more concrete way. Yes?
It was a very interesting
Thank you.
presentation. Yes, I learned a lot from it. And but it just occurred to me that I for the last couple of years I've been working on Chinese maritime culture, and I just discovered that Albert Camus has written very interestingly on the idea of southern thought,
Mm-hmm.
thought from the south, and he's made this distinction between basically European northern thought and southern thought, and the northern thought, according to Camus, was actually a kind of Germanic or Teutonic re-fundamentalization of Hebraic thought. And Camus argued that the two world wars were actually the result of the Teutonic redefinition of Christianity, which kind of crowded out the Southernization or the Hellenization of Christianity, which is like a mild form of maritime culture versus the culture from the Abendland, and so he actually distinguished also between the Mediterranean kind of maritime culture in opposition to the kind of Viking Nordic kind of maritime culture, which is more aggressive and which is more imperialistic. So I'm just wondering, what's your take on this?
I don't know this text of Camus, but I would be curious to read.
Actually, someone, an Italian scholar, also written on this.
Okay.
His name is Franco Cassano. He's written this book called Southern Thought and Other Essays, where he elaborated on this, on Camus' idea of Southern thought, by actually linking this idea of, Camus. His time was a little more limited, so his idea needs to be kind of re-elaborated in contemporary terms. So Cassano actually tried to link this idea of Southern thought to the global South, etc. So I'm just
it's
trying to provide a different perspective.
It's open a new perspective, but it's true that I should read the text, and more than read the text, I think on this cultural issue you have to be immersed to see really what is distinctive. But what I feel very interesting in this perspective, if I understand it well, is to insist also on here on maybe the fragility, but also the resilience of this Mediterranean culture that maybe we have forgotten because of these years of industrialization and control on ocean and nature in such a way that we cannot really get rid of in a second. But maybe we could take some of the strengths of this way of living and of living with the sea that can come back in our civilization even today. So that would be my what I want to dig reading the text of Camus and of the Italian thinker.
I think it was mentioned in his book The Rebel.
Okay.
And elsewhere too.
Okay, thank you. And you had some.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, Jacob. Yes.
Okay. I also thought it was a very interesting presentation. I think it's interesting that it's a metaphor, that all the time water remains a metaphor for thought. It's like, it's not, you cannot really capture what water is, so you have all the metaphors. And with the metaphor, I also think it's interesting where you, for example, the existentialist approach where you are in deep water, and for example, comparing to Heidegger, who is always wants to stand on the field with his boots.
Yeah.
So you have this metaphysic that you could say maybe the metaphysical tradition is more on strong foundations and not being at a ship. And it's true, there's all these metaphors in philosophy. There's the Heraclitus, where you have the river as a metaphor of relativism. You have this Neurat, where you are sailing on a boat, that you all the time you are building the boat yourself while you are sailing. So it's interesting this metaphor, but it's also like with the metaphor that philosophy has problems of capturing the role of water in life.
Yeah, it's true that it can be criticized because it's only an analogical reasoning. But I know that you know also well Ricoeur, who used the metaphor as something that it's more than only an analogy. It also makes sense.
And so you could say it opens. Well, of course, with Ricoeur, you could say it opens a new world, and you enter a new world through the interpretation of life. With water, yes.
And I can say also that I wouldn't have understand Kierkegaard without the image, the metaphor, because if you take only the abstraction in his text, it's much more harder to see what he wants to say. Whereas when you see the metaphor, I didn't take this one, but it's a very one is which is close to my heart. The metaphor of the sailing boat that goes around, is a path. Even if you don't take any choice, you will go on a path, and you think that you don't choose, but in fact, if you don't choose, the sea choose for you, the wind, the sea, and the water. So it's also a way to understand why we are at the same time free and responsible of our choice in life. And in a boat, it's obvious. I don't know if it's so obvious when you are in the land and you are just measuring what's
It's also
around.
reminding me about Michel Serres. You have in Michel Serres, you have the image of the sailor, where the philosopher is a sailor. And another reference, which maybe is also interesting, is the L'École des Annales, where you have the Mediterranean as a structuring principle of the whole civilization. And that may be something, that's maybe another way to see it.
Yes.
Because there the sea is not the other, but the sea is what creates
a world.
a whole world.
Yeah. Yes.
Just to conclude, Pierre.
Yeah,
Because then we have to move to the second presentation.
Speaking about metaphors, it reminds me the way Jean-Pierre Dupuy, the French philosopher, explains the fractal theory, because he took the image when you cross a lake. When it's a small lake, you expect, if you are in the frog, a very, very important frog, you can see more than 2 meters above you. If you are in a small lake, you expect to see the other side of the lake very soon. And if you go on crossing the lake and you don't meet the other side, you expect the other side to be much further, and then much further. And as far as you row and you don't see the other side, you expect the other side to be much more further. And it's applied to the crisis, because when you haven't been in a crisis situation for a long time, you don't expect any crisis in a short time. And this reminds me, because what you explain in your presentation is the interconnection between human being and the sea and the water. It's an interconnection, but the sea is a common good that humanity is now able to destroy. And there is this negative perspective, this ability that humanity may destroy what is so important to its own survival. So there is this, Jean-Pierre Dupuis used to develop an idea. I don't know, I'm not sure that this is the exact English translation, but it's unlikeness catastrophism. We say catastrophisme éclairé in French. Since Jean-Pierre Dupuis is French, I say it in the French way, but it's the idea that we are aware we go to a major crisis, and what we do about that. We are aware that we are destroying the sea. Just we all learned that a few weeks ago we crossed a new barrier, which is the acidification of the ocean. We destroy that. We need that for life. So it's another step to our own end by destroying the sea. And what we do. There is this. It's pessimistic, sorry. But
Okay, thank you
very much.
Cécile, thank you. So Pierre, the stage is yours. For
yeah,
the next
I already
50
started
minutes.
to speak. Sorry. Well, my point. Well, I take the PowerPoint. Okay. My point is just in light with maybe I didn't plan anything while you asking my question, but my point was to just to consider what kind of consideration we can give to water, and I will speak to you about accountability. Accountability. When I was a student, I used to think that nothing was more boring than accountability. So, and it took me a very long time to understand how accountability is important. In fact, it's 15 years ago, I met some researchers on accountability, and they make me understand we have a discussion yesterday about that, the history of accountability, but it's a political dimension. And the way we represent things and the way we represent firms through accountability make it happen, which is the performative dimension of that. I mean, if we have an accountability which focus only on financial dimension, it's obvious that the CEO of the firm will drive the firm with one and only one priority, which is the financial performance. My point in this presentation is to say that we can consider that water, among many other natural resources, but water is as capital, in the epistemological sense, as capital, as essential as the money. And maybe even more, because we can't drink the money. So, the point, if I try to I thank you. I should have started by that, and forgive my English, because you have probably noticed that French are not very good in foreign languages, and from this perspective, I'm very French. So if you don't understand me, just stop me. I have no issue with that. I try to do my best to be clear, and I really want to thank you for the invitation to speak about among you, and especially Nuno, to introduce me here, because I think that being at the crossroad of different disciplines, we have philosophers, historians, specialists of political science, on geography. We have many, and it's very rich. Myself, I originate from economics, and I have my PhD in economics, but I have my habilitation to direct research in management science. So I'm, to a certain extent, at the crossroad of those disciplines. And I think it's very rich to have all those perspectives together. So it's an opportunity. I try not to be very technical in order to open the discussion with your own science. So I try to be very clear on the different concepts and maybe spend more time on those concepts. Can you put it in order that I can switch? Okay, thank you. So, it doesn't work. J'appuie sur la flèche. Ça marche pas. Okay, okay. As you know, one of the major sources of water degradation are the firms. So I had the opportunity to work for a very long period, over 14 years, with a firm, which is an agro-industrial firm, which got an impact, and a negative impact on water consumption. And they really tried to reduce it. And in order to understand this process, I will go through different concepts. Maybe some of you are familiar with them, but I'm not sure all of you. If everybody is fine with the concept of double materiality or strong sustainability, I can skip that, but if not, I can develop that. Maybe I take time to develop those aspects? Yes, okay. So these are, as you can see on the slide, these are the major challenge I try to deal with within this paper. And so I speak about double materiality, strong sustainability, to identify action that firms can do in order to preserve or to restore the water quality. And we'll identify too what are the challenge of, sorry for the acronym, WMA means Water Management Accounting, okay? And I'll show you some evidence on that. So the first aspect which is important is to understand what is double materiality. In France, for a few years now, it has been an important discussion at the European level. I say in France, but in fact it's in Europe. Because there is a new directive, a European directive, which was voted a few years ago, which is CSRD, which means Corporate Social Responsibility Directive. Okay, it's a directive. It's what we say. It's sustainability accounting, which means that the Europe say we expect firms to give us information not just about financial information, like in financial reporting, but about what they done from a social and environmental perspective. So what are the action? What are your impact on social and environmental issue? So firms used to be used with what we call well, I will show here it because financial materiality. Because the financial materiality, it's quite natural for firms to take that into account. For example, what is the impact of the global warming? What is the impact of the water, the rise of water around shores?
it may impact the firm profitability. So they take that into account. So we are on what we call financial materiality. But we don't know, with just doing financial materiality, we don't know what is the impact of the firm over the planet and over the society. And in our situation, what is the impact of the firm over the water pollution, over the water degradation, and so on. So that's why we need to have the double materiality, which say financial materiality is not enough. We must have what we will call the impact materiality. Okay? And the impact materiality, well, we expect you to give us information in order to reduce asymmetry of information. We expect you to give us information about what is your impact on the water capital. And this has been an important political issue because Europe wanted to, within the CSRD, to promote this double materiality perspective. In the States, we have what you know, there are some accounting norms which are the IFRS, and they develop a new one which is a sustainable IFRS, but the sustainable IFRS just focus on financial materiality. So there is an issue, a large debate on this aspect. And because of the recent political evolution, last year Europe made a step back. Because they said, well, we must simplify the CSRD directive, we reduce the number of firms concerned, and many firms now are no more concerned with that. And it was quite surprising for us as Europeans to observe that there is one country which go on with double materiality, which is China. China say, well, we still want to promote double materiality. So actually, the China is at the head of this evolution. So is it clear about double materiality? Then we will switch to another aspect, which is sustainability. Because as I told you, when I had this discussion with those researchers, I come from economics and environmental economics, and I was working on externalities and common goods. The point is that in what we call in economy the neoclassical framework, we consider that we will try to value externalities. So for those of you who are not aware of what are externalities, externalities is, or negative externalities is the consequence of the activity of firm which reduce the welfare of other people without financial compensation. It's external to the market. Okay? So the global idea behind that is that if the firm destroys the water capital, for example, if the firm is able to pay back, to give a financial compensation, that's fine. You can pollute water as long as you can pay back the cost of this degradation. We have different, in economy, we have different methods to extrapolate the cost of the degradation, the social, what we call in economy the social cost, thanks to Ronald Coase. Okay? But well, the global idea between that is that like I said, there is a perfect substitutability, a perfect commensurability between financial capital and natural capital. This is what we call, in a certain way, weak sustainability. My point is to switch to strong sustainability, which is another perspective where we consider that there is no possibility to, there is no commensurability, no possibility to compensate the water degradation. I mean, the message for the firm is, if you degrade, if you destroy the water capital, you can't compensate this destruction by a financial compensation. So we will see that in this perspective, the firm will have to make action in order to preserve or to restore the water quality. There is no possible compensation. So the global idea behind strong sustainability is that for natural capital or human capital, because you can consider that human is as much capital as financial capital, you can't compensate a negative impact on health just by giving back money. Let's say, I would say that a kind of provocative example, but if you get ill because of asbestos, it's not because I will give you back money that I will restore your health. So you are going to die, there is no possible compensation. We understand that. So that's the global idea of strong sustainability. So my point here is to develop a tool of water accounting which lead firms to develop action in order to preserve or restore the water quality. Okay? Wow. I would go quite fast with that because when I speak, I forgot the time, sorry. This is a previous work I've done with a colleague, with Vincent Frisch. We try to identify what are the challenges of a water management accounting tool. And we can consider that there are three main challenges. The first one is to capture the complexity of the water resources and the water management. It's very, very complex, in fact. And we can't capture the whole complexity because our knowledge of the water cycle and so on, and in every disciplines, and biology and physics, we don't know everything. So we will try to do this tool will try to make the maximum at the level of knowledge we got. We must integrate the different expectations of the different stakeholders of the water, capturing some evolution of the context of the law and so on. So this is one very tricky part, which is capturing the complexity of water and its management. Another issue of water accounting management tool is to reduce the asymmetry of information. That's the point of any reporting system. So we must provide reliable data and understandable data. So we need to do that too. I think it's quite obvious. And then we had a third challenge, which is to fit the company's specificity, to meet the company expectations. Because each firm is different, and it's the same issue when you have a global directive like CSRD. We must adapt that to the specificity of each firm. So, and in order to have what we call in economy an organizational learning, or in management science, more than in economy. Okay? So, in order to do so, I use a conceptual framework which is CARE, which has been developed by the researcher who are Jacques Richard and Alexandre Rambaud. And they develop, so CARE, the acronym CARE means comprehensive accounting in respect for ecology, which is in fact a new kind of accounting which consider that we should switch from a a financial accounting to a triple accounting, which is a financial accounting, a natural accounting, and a social accounting, and without any possible compensation without that. So this kind of accounting is still a research process, and it's very complex. So I chose in this research to reduce that just to water accounting, so just one capital, which is water, and in order to identify what we can do to preserve water as a capital, to preserve the quality of the water, its quantity and everything. Because I used to say, if a firm doesn't respect human rights, it can have a process. It's not a process. Sorry. A trial, yeah. Yes, and pay a tax, but that's it. If a firm destroys the natural environment, it's the same. If the firm destroys the financial capital, it's over. So the global idea of this framework is to say, if the firm destroys the human capital, it's over. If the firm destroys the natural capital, it's over, like if it destroys the financial capital. So the firm is accountable of three capitals: financial, natural, and social. My point here is to say, well, just consider that the firm is accountable of the water capital. And then, in order to develop this water management accounting, I suggest 5 steps. It's a kind of co-construction, which are directly linked with the different steps of the care framework. So the first one is to identify. I will go in each steps. The first one, we need. I don't know when I work with the firm. I'm not a specialist of the water. So I need to get information with what I would call state translator, which means state translator, it's a reference to a theoretical framework in social science, maybe you know about here, developed by Calon and Latour, which is actor network theory. Okay, so maybe it rings a bell for some of you. But the global idea is that those state translators are the stakeholder who got the information about, who got the knowledge about water. So we will meet some physicists, some biologists, some NGOs of fisher and so on. All the stakeholders which are affected and have information and who are able to give signal of degradation of the water capital. So this is the first step. This is important. First of all, we got to know what is the water capital. And it's very important to understand what are the preservation thresholds. We need to know that because we know that the firm, by its activity, generate a consumption of water quality. So, to which extent this consumption of water quality can be restored by the nature, and to which extent it can't be. The problem is that when you go over this preservation threshold, you must act. Okay? So it's important to have this knowledge. Then the second step, we must understand how the business model of the firm impacts the water quality. So we have to work with the employee to see, for example, in concerning the firm I was working on, where, for example, evaporation in the food processing, water pollution when they are cleaning the machine, and so on. So we must be aware of all this aspect. And then there is another part which we must identify. What can we do? What can the firm develop in order to preserve or to restore the quality of the water? This is important. We'll see that in the third slide. So we can say, well, I will switch on this because it's implied development and I have no time for that. But the important point is that in the neoclassical framework in economy, when you deal with negative externality, you have methods to trying to value from a financial perspective, like contingent valuation methods and so on, to value the loss of utility for the other stakeholder. Here's the point, we switch to another conceptual framework, and we value the water capital by the cost of the action the firm must plan in order to preserve or restore the quality of this capital. So it's another way of thinking, okay? So that's why it's very important to have this discussion and to identify the action. So when you have developed the 5 steps, the firm is able to understand what is its negative impact on water capital and what it can do to restore it in order to generate no degradation of the water capital. Okay? So, well, this is, maybe it's less interesting for you. So, globally, it was a very long, what we call intervention research. It's a particular method we've developed mainly in France. We go further than action research. For those of you who are familiar with action research, we go further because there is we have an interaction with the employee of the firm in order to develop the solution. Of course, it's a single case study because yes, 5 minutes. Okay, I make it short. Well, it's. I will skip on that because the time I'm already out of time, and so during this process, I had to meet many stakeholders, many interviews, so to grasp the complexity of the water resource and to understand the company expectation. It's we must have in mind that it's a co-construction process. Okay. It's not. In fact, the intervenant researcher, my job within the firm was not to say what they have to do, but just to make sure they ask themselves the right question. Because it's the only way that they understand really the problem. So our result, well, we produce a dashboard which makes sense. That's why it's not making sense of Marx, but making sense of water accounting management. But the point is that those dashboards make sense for the employee. This is the. I thought it's the last one, but it was very important because you can't develop any reporting tool if it don't make sense for the one who use it. If you want it to live, it must make sense because of this performative dimension. If we want the firm to change its way of thinking, its business model, it must make sense for the employee, or there is no change. Of course, we must of course, the point is that it captures the complexity of the water resource, and because we meet many stakeholders, and it was our job to produce reliable and intelligible information, which is well, it's an important issue, of course, because we have to reduce the information. We got some limitation because within the firm, the point is that we had an organizational learning, but only limited to the participant involved in the co-construction process. So we must find a way to develop that to all the employees. Of course, within the firm, the financial executive officer want to focus on the easiest indicator, the most measurable one. So, well, we must have we must progress on this point. And the other risk is that since the knowledge on water issue evolve each year, the water management accounting must integrate that, and it's not easy to change the rule every year. So this is the debate. But well, this is I will just focus on this one. The good point of from a general perspective, the major point of this water management accounting is that it generates a dialogue between all the stakeholders in order to have a co-construction and to make understand that water is a capital which must be protected. Well, so the point is, as I told you while introducing this presentation, is that water is a capital to preserve, and there is no possible offset of that, no financial offset. And well, we have future research on that to go wider employees engagement, to develop that in other firms, a kind of standardization, and to introduce continuous improvement cycle in order to incorporate the evolution of the knowledge. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Questions? Yes.
Thank you very much, Pierre. It was very interesting. These discussions about taking into account non-financial variables in issues of sustainability in the market system enter in collision with, I would say, a major issue, which is the value in the market is primarily defined by the consumers. And whereas you can educate and convince most consumers of the benefits of taking into account certainly the social and also the environmental dimensions, when you enter into other scales of the market, as we are entering now, say war, for example, this is clearly a discussion today. Europe has been having a focus on sustainability. You may agree or disagree with some of the policies, but that's a general trend, even the Green Deal and so on. But there is no real discussion about the environmental consequences of war. But the consumers understand that they are not stupid. So why should they use electric cars, or why should they preserve the environment in general if then in 5 minutes everything can be destroyed?
Yeah.
How would you reply to that?
It's like you know, yesterday during John's presentation we had this issue of prisoner's dilemma. Why should I make an effort if nobody has? Yeah. So the point is that we don't discuss. John answered that we don't discuss, and he's right. That's why it got to be. It's a political dimension. That's why directives like CSRD are very important because they say, wow, this is the rule. I mean, all the firms find it natural, consider that it's natural to be accountable of the financial capital. Because in the history, we have many historians here, once decide that firm should be accountable of financial capital. It's a political decision. So another step is Europe can say, well, firm should be accountable of the natural capital, of the water capital, of the human capital. It's a political decision. Of course, if for the moment it's just one firm, which takes the decision to do it. But the point is that if it goes at the political level, all the firms have to do it.
Pasquale?
Well, congratulations, Pierre. It's has been very interesting your presentation and the you are developing. As you say, this is a complicated discussion, hard discussion, how to measure this the double materiality. One is very clear. It's something that we are doing for a long time. Very worrying, also for me. The accountability, but anyway, this is a tool that we have to use. No? But in this case, this is related with the ecosystem services and the evaluation of ecosystem services. This is one of the more clear, no? The water, what the water that the nature provides us has no price because there are no markets, but is evident a lot of value. It's something we have to preserve. This is clear. No? And in this sense, well, any step in this arduous path is from my view, is interesting, and congratulations for the job.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, comments?
Yes.
I just have a question. Maybe it's less dramatic than the war, but still we are in a market, and all companies are facing the same issues about preserving water, but they are not they are not all making effort to do so. And my question was, in this kind of initiative, you spoken about the discussion you had with the employees, but is there any discussion between this firm and other firm on the same river, or when to make sure that the engagement that one take are followed by other stakeholders, not of the company but of the waterscape?
Yeah. Actually, for the moment, it's the decision of one firm. Many firms claims, almost all the firm claims to be responsible. We can't imagine a firm who say, "Well, I'm not responsible." No, all the firm claim to be responsible. Some of them act, some of them just claim, and that we call greenwashing. My point that it's a similar issue. We got, of course, the firm which takes the decision to be accountable of its water capital and to plan action. Those actions have a cost. It reduces the financial performance. Well, there is okay. So, and that's the main argument the firm had towards the CSRD in Europe, and they say, well, if the European firm must respect the CSRD, we will be no more competitive with the firm of other continents because they don't have this constraint. But at the moment, it's a prisoner's dilemma at the world scale. But at the moment, well, we have the example of the China go on with that. Why Europe? Europe is one of the if you take the whole Europe, it's the biggest economic actor. So it can decide to go on, even if we know that the states have make many steps back. But Europe and China can go on in this direction and lead the rest of the world. I mean, if nobody starts, and maybe because you have some water issue in China, we have some water issue in Europe. I mean, we must be aware of that. It's we just can't say no. And I come back to the fractal theory. We know that it's coming, but we don't do anything. We must start to act. So that's why I come back. My point, because I am in management science, is to say to the political, we can develop operational solution. It's possible to do it. Now, make the law. This is my social utility on Earth on this aspect is to teach that to my students and to develop those solutions, to provide them to the politician at the national or European level, and to say, wow, we got those solutions, just make them mandatory.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Pierre. So this speaks to scaling it, what you've spoken about, scaling up. Talk about the continental scale. I think Cape Town is a very interesting case study in water management. Between about 2015 and 2017, there was very severe drought. It's a winter rainfall region. We only get rainfall in the winter, and quite small catchment areas for the water to accumulate, and no groundwater of any consequence. So there's always a risk actually of running out. And in 2017, it really did look like the city was going to run totally out of water. And how to manage that situation. And what happened was the city took a decision to introduce the concept of day zero. So it became in the public media, in the newspapers and the radio, that day zero was getting closer. We just kind of count down to day zero. And it completely changed public perception of water management. So there were clues given as to how people might do it. I mean, a lot of people in Cape Town don't have access to their own water in their own house. They have to go down the corner to a standpipe. But those of us living in more, affluent areas with showers and so on, 2 minutes was the recommended time for a shower. Behavior in the toilet became very different. So the story was that if it's mellow, let it yellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So to this day, actually, I very rarely flush the toilet when I go to just have a pee, because it became ingrained to manage the water, to look after it, conserve the water. And the consumption rates in Cape Town are still lower after this. We no longer have the problem. By the way, we've had 2 or 3 years of fairly good rainfall, not to say it wouldn't happen again. But we have, we're back with fairly full reservoir and dams and so on. But the behavior patterns are actually still there. So you can change public perception through an education campaign. In this case, it was probably fear that drove it. It's interesting in itself. But it is possible to change the public attitude towards conserving resources.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think this is one of the ways to make political change. Because all the citizens are concerned, because they are afraid in the day zero concept, but it seems to be very efficient, because let's imagine that all the Europeans are afraid of the day zero. Then the politician will have to make it mandatory for firms to act in a responsible way in this aspect. So very interesting.
Thank you. So now I propose that we do a coffee break of about 15 minutes. I was told that it will be served outside even if we have coffee here, but I think that we have more things outside, so we'll just go outside for the coffee break and to see the sun. And then we come back here at around 11:10.
No, there is a painting of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Picked up the Every time I get the flu, then I have an allergic reaction. For 2 weeks, it's always.
So we'll have the two presentations. Also, I just got the confirmation. So we will have lunch here. And so we are not going to the cruise, to the restaurant that we went yesterday. We will have a lighter lunch today. Okay. Where we had the cocktail yesterday. Okay. And we'll go at around 12:45, and then we go to Paris. Okay, if that is okay with you. Now the two presentations now. So we'll start with Shenxia, and then Gilbert Fong. Donc Shenxia, the flowing wisdom, Taoist philosophy, and ancient Chinese water management.
Yes. Actually, I'm doing this presentation for my colleague Chen Xia. She could not make it today. And I will just read his manuscript. Yeah. It is titled, "The Highest Virtue is Like Water, the Insights of Taoism to Waterscape Management." Introduction. As a vital component of traditional Chinese culture, Taoist philosophy has undergone thousands of years of transmission and development, exerting profound influence across all facets of Chinese civilization. It has left an indelible mark in numerous fields, including philosophy, literature, art, and medicine. In today's globalized context, the wisdom and the idea embedded within Taoist philosophy continue to offer significant insights for addressing various challenges facing modern society, such as ecological crises and spiritual dilemmas. Water, as a common yet unique natural element, holds a pivotal position in Taoist philosophy. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu states, "The highest virtue is like water. Water benefits all things without contending. It dwells in places that others despise. Thus it is close to the Tao," highly praising water's weaker, noble virtue of nourishing all things without vying for supremacy. Nothing in the world is softer and weaker than water, yet nothing can overcome what is hard and strong. This profoundly reveals water's seemingly gentle nature, concealing immense power. These reflections on water embody Taoist philosophy's deep understanding and unique insights, intertwining water's natural attributes with Taoist thought. Thus, water becomes a vital symbol and a vessel within Taoist philosophy. Taoist philosophy's profound contemplations of water hold significant meaning, not only on a philosophical level, but also exert a far-reaching influence on ancient Chinese flood control practices. In his flood control effort, Yu the Great took water as his teacher, adhering to its natural patterns and adopting a strategy of dredging rather than blocking. This approach successfully managed water disasters, embodying the Taoist wisdom of guiding with the flow. The Dujiang-Yan irrigation system, constructed in 256 BC, ingeniously harnessed the natural forces through its design and construction. By leveraging water's inherent properties, it achieved multifunctional benefits, including flood control, irrigation, and sediment removal. Still operational today, it stands as a model of harmonious coexistence between humans, water, and nature. These historical practices demonstrate that Taoist philosophical concepts regarding water provided crucial theoretical guidance and practical foundations for ancient Chinese water management. In modern society, waterscape management faces numerous challenges, such as water scarcity, severe water pollution, and the destruction of aquatic ecosystem. Traditional approaches to waterscape management often prioritize engineering techniques and economic benefits while neglecting water's natural attributes and ecological value, leading to a series of environmental issues. Integrating Taoist philosophy, an element of traditional Chinese culture, into the field of waterscape management research will enrich the perspectives and theoretical framework of this discipline, fostering the integration of traditional culture with modern science. The Tao and water. Within the Taoist philosophical system, the Tao occupies a central position as a highly abstract and profound concept. At the outset of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu states, the Tao that can be spoken of is not the eternal Tao, explicitly indicating that the true Tao defies precise verbal expression. As the origin of all things in the universe, the Tao possesses the characteristic of existing prior to heaven and earth, representing an existence that transcends human perception and comprehension. As Lao Tzu stated, there is a thing formed in chaos, born before heaven and earth, silent and void. It stands alone and never changes. It circulates endlessly without exhaustion, and it can be regarded as the mother of the world. I know not its name. I call it the Tao. Forced to name it, I call it the Great. The Tao is the primordial existence, undifferentiated and chaotic, silent and void, yet independent and eternal. It circles endlessly, never exhausting itself, serving as the source of all creation and development in the world. The Tao is not only the origin of all things, but also the fundamental law of governing the universe, directing all phenomena and changes in nature and human society. Water, as the most common and unique substance in nature, possesses numerous natural characteristics that align profoundly with the essence of the Tao. Thus, it becomes the ideal symbol for Taoists to elucidate the Tao. Water nurtures all things, it is the source of life, and the growth of reproduction of all beings in the world depend on its nourishment. Its ceaseless flow is another defining characteristic. Water perpetually moves and changes, rushing forward without a pause of stagnation. The Tao operates in an endless circle, propelling the universe and all things through continuous development and transformation, without beginning or end. Under the influence of the Tao, all phenomena undergoes the process of birth, growth, maturity, aging, and death, perpetually renewing and renewing. Water also possesses all characteristics of adapting to its container, lacking a fixed form and altering its shape according to the vessel it occupies. In nature, water's flow path is entirely determined by the undulation of the terrain. This inherent adaptability to nature enables water to maintain a harmonious and stable state within the natural world, playing a vital ecological role. This quality embodies the flexibility and adaptability of the Tao. The Tao adapts to the transformation of all things, refraining from forcibly altering their natural states. Instead, it guides them according to their inherent tendencies, allowing everything to develop according to its own laws. From the Taoist perspective, people should likewise learn to adapt to their environment like water, remaining flexible and responsive, avoiding stubbornness, and facing life's challenges with a peaceful mindset. Water's characteristic of benefiting all things without contention is a profoundly significant concept in Taoist philosophy. It perpetually flows towards low-lying areas, dwelling in places others despise, yet steadfastly upholds its nature, serving all things without complaint or regret. This spirit of benefiting all things without contention holds profound implications for humanity's approach to life. Water appears gentle, yet possesses immense power, embodying the principle that the soft overcomes hard. This characteristic holds profound meaning in Taoist philosophy and finds extensive validation in real life. The proverb, "A drop of water wears a wet stone," exemplifies this. Water's ability to overcome hardness through softness teaches us that strength is not solely determined by outward form, but more critically by inner resilience and enduring perseverance. In human society, the wisdom of yielding to overcome resistance holds significant practical value. Strategies that employ great gentleness to resolve conflicts through peaceful negotiations, cooperative dialogue, and moderate approaches are more effective than force in achieving lasting peace and stability. Water's nature teaches us that human activities should fully respect the natural law, align with the trends of nature, and avoid blindly altering the natural world. The third part, ancient flood control practices influenced by Taoist philosophy. The first is King Yu tamed the flood, flowing the way of water. In ancient times, rampant floods wreaked havoc, bringing immense calamity to people's lives. According to the classic of history, the Canon of Yao, the surging flood waters were rampant, sweeping mountains and engulfing hills, vast and overwhelming as the heavens. To resolve this crisis, Emperor Yao successfully dispatched the Gong and Chongbo Kung to manage the waters. Gun employed the blocking and damming approach, attempting to contain the flood with embankments. However, whenever accumulated water exceeded the dam's capacity, they would breach, causing even greater devastation. After Emperor Shun ascended the throne, he reassigned Gun Song Yu to continue the flood control efforts. He carefully analyzed the lessons from his father's failure, recognizing that the mere containment could not solve the problem. A more scientific and effective approach was needed. After deep contemplation and field investigation, Yu decided to adopt a diversion strategy to manage the floods. His achievement in flood control earned him widespread acclaim, and he was revered as the great Yu. Second, Dujiang Yan, a water conservancy masterpiece of Taoist philosophy. Constructed in 256 BC, the Dujiang irrigation system spans the Ming River in western Sichuan's Chengdu Plain. Originating from the snow-capped peaks of western Sichuan, the Ming River is a major tributary of the Up Yangtze River. In ancient times, during spring and summer, torrential mountain floods would surge down the river, carrying the sand, stones, and massive waves. Upon entering the Chengdu Plain, the narrow riverbed and the restricted flow often triggered catastrophic floods. Conversely, during the dry season, the Ming River's water volume would drastically decrease, failing to meet the irrigation needs. These led to parched land, cracked soil, and poor harvest. To resolve this dilemma, Li Bing and his son took on the monumental task of constructing the Dujiang irrigation system. The design philosophy of the Dujiang project fully embodied the Taoist principle of harmonizing with nature. During its construction, Li Bing and his son conducted extensive field surveys, meticulously studying the Ming River's hydrological characteristics and topography. They discovered that as the Ming River flowed through the Dujiang region, its course was winding, the currents were swift, and water levels fluctuated significantly. Thus, they ingeniously harnessed these natural conditions, designing engineering structures such as the fish mouth, the sand well, and the bottleneck to achieve scientific management of the Ming River's water systems. The fish mouth design was ingenious. Its water dividing embankment resembled a fish's head, standing tall in the middle of the Ming River and splitting it into an inner river and an outer river. It automatically adjusted the water distribution between the two channels based on flow volume and velocity. The out channel serves as the main flow of the Ming River, primarily for flood discharging and sediment removal. The inner channel functions as the artificial water diversion conduit, channeling water through the bottleneck structure into the Chengdu Plan to meet the irrigation demands. The position and the angle of the fish mouth well are precisely calibrated, fully leveraging the river's meandering circulation principle to naturally split the flow of the well. The river bend surface current flows towards the concave bank, while bottom current flows towards the convex bank. Positioned on the concave bank side, the fish mouth diversion embankment channels most of the river water into the inner river for irrigation. During the flood seasons, increased flow straightened the main channel, directing most water into the outer river. This achieves automatic diversion and flow regulation. During the low water period, the inner channel received 60% of the flow and the outer channel 40%, ensuring ample water supply for the plant. During the flood, the outer channel receives 6% and the inner channel 40%, effectively reducing flood peaks and regulating the water volume. The sand well, situated on the right bank of the inner river, is a low embankment. Its design ingeniously harnesses the natural forces. Positioned at the bend of the inner river, it creates a black flow as water passes over it. The swirling current stirs up sediment from the riverbed, carrying it over the well's crest into the outer river, effectively preventing siltation in the inner river. When the inner river's flow exceeds the bottleneck's capacity, excess water overflows the sand well and naturally returns to the outer river, preventing flooding on the Chengdu Plan. Simultaneously, the sand well cleverly employs the centrifugal forces to fling sand and stones carried by the inner river into the outer river, preventing the channel siltation and ensuring the inner river diversion channel remains unobstructed. This method of harnessing natural forces for sediment removal not only conserves the manpower and the resources, but also guarantees the long-term stable operation of the project. The bottleneck, the vital gateway controlling inflow into the inner river, was artificially excavated into the Yulei Mountain. It functions like a sturdy control gate, strictly regulating water flow into the Chengdu Plan. This ensures optimal irrigation for farmland while limiting excessive inflow during floods, stabilizing the inner river's flow. The excavation of a bottleneck also exemplified harmony with nature. Based on the geological structure of the Yulei Mountain, Li Bing and his son selected the optimal location and method for excavation. Employing primitive techniques, burning stones and then dousing them with cold water and to fracture the rock, they endured immense hardship to finally carve the bottleneck out of the Yulei Mountain. Its shape and the dimension were meticulously designed to effectively regulate water to the inner river, meeting the irrigation needs while limiting flow during the floods to safeguard the Chengdu Plan. The completion of Dujiangyan irrigation system had a profound impact on the agricultural, economic, and cultural development of the Chengdu Plan. The Dujiang irrigation system also holds a pivotal position in the history of hydraulic engineering. It stands as the world's oldest, only surviving, and continuous operational large-scale water diversion project, featuring damless water diversion. Hailed as the pioneer of global water culture, its scientific design principles, ingenious engineering layout, and exceptional operational management provide invaluable experience and reference for subsequent hydraulic engineering projects. The fourth part, the challenges and issues facing modern waterscape management. Globally, water scarcity is becoming increasingly severe, emerging as one of the key factors constraining sustainable human development. With the continuous growth of the world's population, demands of water resources continue to rise. Rapid economic development has further intensified water consumption. Water pollution represents another major challenge for modern waterscape management. Industrial wastewater, domestic sewage, and agricultural non-point source pollution are primary sources of water contamination. Such pollution not only compromises the ecological functions of water bodies, but also poses threat to human health. The degradation of aquatic ecosystem represents another critical issue in contemporary waterscape management. Aquatic ecosystems are complex systems encompassing biotic communities such as aquatic plants, animals, and microorganisms, alongside abiotic components like water bodies and sediments. Maintaining the equilibrium of this ecosystem is vital for preserving water bodies' self-purification capacity and delivering essential ecological services. In urban development, waterscape planning and management played a vital role in enhancing cities' image and improving residents' living environment. However, current urban waterscape planning and management face numerous challenges and severe difficulties. In urban waterscape planning, some areas blindly pursue aesthetical effects while neglecting ecological functions. To create virtually appealing waterscape, extensive use of hard materials of bank reinforcement and seepage prevention has destroyed riparian ecosystem. While reinforced concrete and other rigid materials enhance shorelines stability, they destroy habitats for aquatic animals and the environment for aquatic plants. These reduce material and energy exchange between water and land, diminishing the water body's self-purification capacity. Some cities overemphasize artificial landscape elements such as large-scale fountains and artificial lakes, while neglecting the protection and the restoration of natural water bodies. These artificial features often consume substantial water and energy resources, entail higher maintenance costs, and yield limited ecological benefits. Inadequate management system for urban waterscape also poses a significant challenge. Oversight involves multiple departments, including water resources, environmental protection, and landscaping, and municipal services. Yet, responsibility remains poorly defined, resulting in fragmented management and fragmented governance. The fifth part is the insights from Taoist philosophy for modern waterscape management. First, ecological priority in waterscape planning. Modern waterscape management should integrate the Taoist principle of a flowing nature's way, adhering to natural laws and establishing an ecological first planning philosophy. When designing waterscapes, full considerations must be given to the integrity and stability of a natural ecosystem. systems, safeguarding the biodiversity of aquatic ecosystem. For natural water bodies like rivers and lakes, human interference should be minimized to preserve their natural forms and ecological functions. During river remediation, excessive bank hardening should be avoided. Instead, ecological bank protection techniques such as planting aquatic vegetation and installing gabions should be employed to provide habitats for aquatic life and promote self-repair and balance within the aquatic ecosystem. As a vital component of aquatic ecosystem, wetlands performs multiple ecological functions, including climate regulation, water purification, and biodiversity conservation. Waterscape planning should prioritize wetland protection and restoration through rational functioning zoning, such as designating wetland reserves, buffer zones, and utilization areas. Within wetland conservation zones, human activities should be strictly restricted to preserve the pristine ecological environment. In wetland buffer zones, moderate ecotourism and educational activities can be conducted to enhance public awareness and conservation consciousness. In wetland utilization zones, activities like ecological agriculture and aquaculture may be permitted, but their scale and intensity must be carefully controlled to prevent damage to the wetland ecosystem. Ecological restoration serves as a vital means to improve the aquatic ecosystem. For polluted or degraded water bodies, scientifically sound restoration measures such as biological, physical, and chemical remediations should be implemented. Biological restoration harnesses the metabolic process of aquatic plants and microorganisms to remove pollutions and restore ecological functions. Second, promoting a development mode of harmony between humans and water. Creating water-friendly environments is a crucial measure for fostering harmony between humans and water. In urban development, waterfront spaces should be rationally planned, incorporating facilities like waterfront platforms, walkways, and bike passes to provide the residents with opportunities to engage with water. Enhancing public awareness of water environment protection is key to achieving harmony between humans and water. During urban development, the carrying capacity of water resources must be fully considered to ensure harmonious coexistence. Based on water resource conditions, urban scale and individual layout should be rationally planned to avoid overdevelopment and waste of water resources. In water resources allocation, the water demands of various sectors should be fully considered, prioritizing domestic water supply while rationally distributing water for industrial and ecological purposes. So come to the conclusion. The Taoist philosophy of flowing nature's way provide crucial conceptual guidance for modern waterscape management. They compel us to recognize that in managing waterscape, we must deeply respect the natural laws, consistently prioritize ecological conservation, and strive for harmonious coexistence between humanity and nature. When planning and designing waterscapes, we must fully consider the integrity and stability of natural ecosystems, minimizing disturbance and damage to the natural environment. By protecting and restoring the biodiversity of aquatic ecosystems, we enhance the self-purification capacity of water bodies, creating a beautiful and healthy aquatic environment for humanity. The Taoist philosophy of adapting to circumstances and conforming to nature offers scientific methodological insights for modern waterscape management. Regarding whether water resources utilization, we must fully understand the distribution and variability patterns of water resources. Based on regional water conditions and usage demands, we should formulate rational water resources allocation plans, optimize water resources allocation strategies, strengthen the unified management and the coordination of water resources, improve utilization efficiency, and achieve sustainable water resource use. Vigorously promote water-saving technologies and measures such as drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, reclaimed water reuse, and rainwater harvesting to reduce waste and alleviate water scarcity pressures. The Taoist philosophy of balancing firmness and flexibility provides effective strategical support for modern waterscape management. Improve the institutional mechanism for waterscape management by establishing a unified, coordinated, and efficient system with clearly defined responsibilities, strengthen communications and coordination among departments to form a cohesive working forces, simultaneously fully leverage modern information technology to enhance the scientific rigor and the flexibility of waterscape management. Through real-time monitoring and dynamic management, promptly identify and resolve issues arising in waterscape management to ensure the achievement of management objectives. With continuous social development and people's aspiration for a better life, waterscape management assumes increasing importance in urban construction and ecological conservation. Taoist philosophy, a treasure of traditional Chinese culture, embodies profound wisdom and thought, offering unique perspectives and valuable insights for modern waterscape management. Future research should delve deeper into the essence of the Taoist philosophy, integrating it with modern science, technology, and management concepts through interdisciplinary studies. By organically combining Taoist philosophy with ecology, environmental science, and hydraulic engineering, we can provide more scientific and systematic theoretical support for waterscape management. In-depth exploration of Taoist philosophical concepts regarding water should examine their practical applications in water resource conservation, aquatic ecosystem restoration, and water landscape planning and design, offering novel approaches to address challenges in contemporary waterscape management. In practice, the application and promotion of Taoist philosophy in water management should be strengthened. This can be achieved by formulating relevant policies and regulations to guide and encourage regions to fully draw upon the wisdom of Taoist philosophy in waterscape management. Efforts should be intensified to publicize and promote ecological first planning concepts for waterscapes, water resources utilization methods that work with natural conditions, and waterscape management strategies that combine firmness and flexibility. These will enhance awareness and understanding across society regarding the application of Taoist philosophy in waterscape management. Okay, thank you very much. I think I just stop here. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
Well, I cannot, yeah, but
Of course that you are reading the paper, but yes.
Yes, I was wondering. I don't know the very much the Taoist philosophy, but I was wondering when you say in the end that you were, she was hoping that this philosophy would inspire the future of waste management. Do you have already some examples of water management using technology and also being inspired by Taoist philosophy? Because as far as I know, it's not completely it was not philosophy which was not close to technology, but not open to technology. So how can we think with the consistency of the Taoist philosophy, but still integrate new technology that we have at hand now?
Yes, I think it's a good question. I should pass to Chenjia, but basically I think the Taoist philosophy follows nature. Do not fight with it,
Yes.
Headstrong fighting with nature. So in this sense, these new technologies could be incorporated into waterscape management. That's the idea. But how? Maybe Dujiang was a good example, the Dujiang irrigation system. Yeah. I think some we'll talk about the Dujiang project later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's a little bit, so I'm following up on this question, because we talk, for example, in China, you talked a lot about the presence of Confucianism, some in the way of thinking of a new Confucianism. It's already some years ago, everybody spoke about harmony. Maybe it's not so strong now. But you could ask the same question with regard to Taoism. Is this present in Chinese decision-making today, or is it marginalized? Or how can you, what can you do to make it more is it really something that could be the basis for decision-making in management, for example? And what should be done to promote it as a decision, as a horizon for decision making?
Yes, as Confucians, they want to know the governance of the state. So all these officials are very much involved in water irrigation, dams, everything. That's for economics. But how to do it? The Taoist philosophy, I think they're suggesting ways of doing this. Yeah, so they're somehow complementary to each other, in a sense. Yeah. I'm not answering the question. That's why I'm thinking. Yeah.
You're the experts. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Go. Yes.
Okay. Just maybe something to complement what we've been, the two respective scholars have mentioned. I can't speak on behalf of either China or Chinese thinking, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But in response to your questions concerning especially about whether or not these traditional ways of thinking can actually be incorporated into modern technology. There's a book called The Question Concerning Technology in China by Yu Hui, a Hong Kong thinker, who is probably the best Chinese thinker today. He's written immensely on the subject of technology and the kind of East-West comparative studies of intellectual developments. And the emphasis in his series of books is mainly we need to pay attention to technology as a way of thinking rather than a universal kind of tool. So every invention and implementation of technology is rooted in the locality. So he's invented this term called cosmotechnics, meaning any technical manifestation is underlined by a cosmology. So how you think about the world, how you look at and conceive of the human meaning of human existence, etc. So technology is never universal or neutral, and that's why it's possible to develop alternative kinds of understanding and actually manifestations of technological thinking. So, for instance, we believe that the internet is a neutral technological tool, but in fact, it's not. We can try to develop, alternative kinds of internet or use of internet. So, yeah, I think that's just my take on this matter.
I think it is a very important point that you are making. Yeah, local, circumstantial using of technology, not just the application of a universal technology. So you have to consider the circumstance, consider the water's nature, to follow its nature, to do things, to do for engineering, I think. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now I would call Gilbert Funk, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you turn on the mic a little bit more? Can you turn it?
I don't think I can.
Louder?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much and for inviting me. My co-author regretfully cannot come due to business, so she sends her apologies to Dr. Shelby Chen. And also thank you for the organizers, Nuno and Louise, and also the Stephanie for organizing such a beautiful place for us to conference, and a beautiful hotel, and good food and everything else. And thank you very much. So, okay, I have 25 minutes, right? Something like that. Right. Our presentation called the Saga of X Shamsui Surface Reservoir actually is an attempt to reimagine water not as a mere natural resource or commodity. Let me try to get this thing going here. Sorry, a little bit. Can you come and help me here? This. Oh, okay now. Try to reimagine water not as a mere natural resource or commodity, but as a dynamic socio-natural entity deeply intertwined with human culture, identity, power, and ecology. And the theory, challenges reductionist views, such as those in economics or engineering, that treat water solely as a utility instead of posit water as a co-producer of social worlds where material flows symbolic meaning. So it's basically a little bit more semiotic than what is commonly known as water. And the famous scholar called Veronica Strand, probably you heard about writing, she wrote a book called The Meaning of Water, and she posited this idea about a waterscape theory, saying that when water actually mirrors and influences social dynamics, the boundaries between land and water, society and nature, and even self and other, are fluid and enmeshed rather than fixed. So that actually is our basis. It's the basis for our study here. Today, we embark on a journey through Hong Kong's waterscape history, engineering marvel, and cultural memory, using the Sam Shui Po surface reservoir, often called the Bishop Hill Reservoir, as our guiding narrative. There's a story to tell. Once a hidden utility and nearly lost to history, the reservoir is now a celebrated heritage icon and a lens to examine the city's relationship with water, infrastructure, and even identity. Let me give you a little bit of the Hong Kong history as well. Some of us probably do not know too much about it. There was an opium war between Great Britain and China in 1841, and of course the Qing government, the Chinese government actually lost the war. So in 1842, Hong Kong was founded as a United Kingdom's crown colony, and it remained until 1997. And at that time, it was only Hong Kong Island. I'll show you the map a little bit later on. But in 1860, cession of the Kowloon, the peninsula, also to United Kingdom. And in 1898, the lease of the new territories for 99 years, and that was why there was this deadline of 1997. We all heard about that too, because the land had to be released back to China. So, from 1941 to 1945, it's a Japanese occupation, and from 1997, of course, the resumption of Chinese sovereignty, and then Hong Kong now become part of China. So whenever we say Hong Kong now, we cannot just say Hong Kong. We have to say Hong Kong, China. So, and okay, the next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you very much. Geography, Hong Kong's geography fundamentally shapes its quest for water security. Why? Because the territory lacks natural lakes. It has no lakes. It has no major river or significant groundwater, leaving it reliant on rainfall, trapped in man-made reservoirs. And that was actually later. About 1/3 of the land, mostly hilly and country park areas, serves as water gathering grounds, the catchment areas, actually. So, and they turned into a kind of country trail, walking trail now. And so that's very, very nice for people, especially older people that need to exercise, so they walk on the trail and so on and so forth. And that is why in Hong Kong, even though we have a very, dense concrete jungle, but if you go up maybe 10, 12 minutes, you go up onto the mountains and you see a lot of trees and the green areas and so on. So it's everywhere in Hong Kong. So that's kind of nice. So do not misconceive Hong Kong as just a concrete jungle. We have a lot of greenness too in our surroundings. So that is why Hong Kong needs something to store water, to get water, and as the city grows, actually, so the need was very, very severe. And in terms of weather, the city experiences a subtropical monsoon climate. Annual rainfall actually is quite huge, I would say. That was 2,400 millimeters per year. So it's not too bad. Yet, it arrives seasonally and it's very unpredictable. Sometimes we get a lot more rain, sometimes we have dry weather for maybe half a year or so, and that would have got us in trouble if we had no other water sources. So they're causing cycles of drought and flooding, and then the rapid urbanization too intensifies the pressure as land for new reservoirs diminishes and competition over resources persist. So that was one of the reasons why that this ex-Shanxi reservoir was meant to be dismantled, and probably the government planned to sell the land and build high rises up there. Yeah, these limitations have driven innovations in water supply. We use seawater for flushing, and that covers 85% of the city's toilets. So there's a lot of toilets to cover. So, and also we also tried the salination, accounted for the balance, 70 to 80%. And so it's the water problem makes the city continually vulnerable and dependent on external sources. Of course, now, due to the magnanimity of the mother country, China, we are a little bit safe in kind of water resources. Now, let me see if I could get the... Now, the history of water supply. Early in the colonial period, Hong Kong depended on hillside streams and shallow wells for water. But explosive population growth, actually, between 1891 to 1901, I think it was, the population grew tenfold. So there was actually an urgent need for water, and that was why the Shanxi Reservoir was built in 1904. And population growth rendered the water sources inadequate, and the first major reservoir was built in 1863, and it was on a very small scale. And then closer to the end of the century, there was something called the Kowloon gravitational water scheme that is using the topography of Hong Kong to collect water and put them into in reservoirs, and use that as to supply water. And of course, the engineering was British, and firm too was British. But the reservoir was built by the Chinese company. Actually, they found out the Chinese company, the descendants, I think just the grandsons, are still living in the States right now. That was very, very interesting. There's another story to tell. So, these reservoirs also indicated one thing, that the government actually was very keen on keeping water supply as a kind of public utility run by the government. Whereas in Hong Kong, hydropower, electricity is actually privatized. So it shows that the water is very, very important to the governance of Hong Kong, and also to the people of Hong Kong. And going back to the history, events like the influx of refugees in post-World War II, because of turmoils in China, and especially the catastrophic 1963 to 1964 droughts. It was very, very severe. I remember I was young at the time, and we didn't have any rainfall for about 6, 8 months. And the reservoirs were dry, actually. They showed a picture. The bottom, everything was dry. And then the government had to resort to water rationing. First it was 1 hour, 4 hours per day, and then it was 4 hours, two days. And then 4 hours, 3 days, and finally it came to 4 hours, 4 days. I remember very, very clearly my mother frantically tried to collect water and using every piece of a container to contain water. And at that time, plastic just appeared to be very popular. So there were kind of plastic bags, were used to contain water as well. And of course, everybody's buying it. And that's why Li Ka-shing, who actually started a business in plastics, and he made a lot of money during that time. That was 1963, 1964. And, it still sticks in my mind as well as a collective memory of Hong Kong people. And so at that time, the colonial government actually sought help from the Chinese government. And there were tankers actually coming in from China to carry water. And then there were also some big ships coming to Hong Kong from overseas, and they also helped to carry water as well. So it was that severe. So today, water, imported water forms about 70 to 80% of water supply. And I think it's going to go higher. Let me show you the map. The map here. This is, can you get it up a little? Right. So that's Hong Kong. The yellow part is Hong Kong. And then there's some kind of aqueduct and then some tunnels and so on and so forth. The red part. And then there's this river, big river in the Guangdong province, hundreds of miles away. And that was, we call it Dongjiang East River, Dongjiang. And water actually was carried through all these aqueducts and tunnels and open sources and reservoirs, and then go into Hong Kong. So that's how it is now. It started in, I think, 1965, and it's still going on now. And it is not free. Unfortunately. Actually, we pay a premium price for that. Some people did a study and said Singapore also got water from Malaysia, and Singapore pay half the price Hong Kong paid to China, even though we're the same country. So maybe we should talk to the Chinese government about this a little bit too. So give us, some cheap water. So yeah. So anyway, that's a kind of interesting. But Hong Kong, of course, we had a lot of money a few years ago, but not now. So okay. So that was the map here. Actually, it was all these other pipes and things, water going into the entire Hong Kong area. The next slide, please. So this actually is you can see on top of the hill there with the trees there. There's that's where the reservoir was built, and actually it was dug underground, and because it's high, so it's gravitational. The water would sort of come down from the hill, and provided water for the rest of the area. Of course, this was a later picture at that time when it was built, so there weren't that many buildings around. There weren't that many buildings around. So anyway, next picture, please. So this is what it looks like now. Now you see this barren land, this kind of yellow kind of, and that's the top of the reservoir. You can see it's quite high. It's quite high. So there's some water pressure coming down to. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here it is. It was this hole there that was in danger of falling down. That's why the government had planned to demolish it. But it's you can imagine it could be a very kind of a premium land to build on. I mean, you build a high rise there, you can see a lot of other places too. So anyway, okay. So the next one, that's the opening there. Yeah. The next one, please. Okay. So this part here, I'm no expert, and I think Desmond here maybe can tell us more about this. Anyway, I try my best. Constructed in 1904, and it stands out as a technical and architectural milestone, set atop this hill, also known as Bishop Hill. That used to be a missionary place there. Is designed harmonized with the landscape to support gravitational water flow. The reservoir's a subterranean construction measuring about 46 meters in diameter and nearly 7 meters in height, creates a hidden cathedral-like space, earning evocative comparison to archaeological wonders everywhere in the world. So it's really something, well, for Hong Kong people anyway, because we're not used to this kind of thing. We only use high-rise buildings, not, maybe things like this kind of hole, water tank, 100 years old. So it's a hybrid construction at the time. It's some kind of a new skill, I think probably Desmond can tell us, is a combination of reinforced concrete and red brick work. At that time, I think mostly it was brick work, right? And the combination was something quite new. So it's balancing strength and form, and the shape is this kind of Romanesque element, Euro-style granite piers, piers and semi-circular brick arches, imitating ancient Roman aqueducts and tanks, and so on and so forth. So it looks very, very nice actually. And there's this carved ceiling, the pole concrete dome prevented contamination. And there's also the pentagonal granite blocks to distribute structural loads, allowing for spacious interior without supporting pillars covering the space. And then there's some openings and stuff like that. So the system also included balanced tanks and pipes to equalize pressure, and masonry portal for access, and a lot of inlets, outlets, and overflow pipes to clean the water, and so on, drainage channels, and so that it would be easier to clean. The reservoir had a capacity of 9,900 cubic meters. At that time, it was very big, about 10 times the existent reservoirs at the time. So they thought, wow, this is the final reservoir we need. We don't need any more. So it says over 10 times than its local contemporaries in Kowloon City. And with its construction, it significantly improved water reserves for districts in the city, which is growing like crazy, growing like very fast. And its construction marked both the peak of colonial public works ambition and an instance of, some people would call it engineered beauty. Some people call this, I think it's kind of overblown, kind of Hong Kong Colosseum, like the Roman Colosseum. So, but still, for Hong Kong, according to Hong Kong standards, it is quite beautiful. So, next slide, please. The next slide, please. So you can see the pictures here. So you could show a lot of. Keep on going. I got a lot of pictures there. A lot of them didn't show well on my PowerPoint. This is the. So you can see this is how it looks like. How it looked like before it was renovated, actually. So these are the coves and the piers and this hole the sun shining in, and again the piers too, and the granite stones, again concrete wall. Yeah. So keep on going, please. Thank you. So it looks quite majestic to me anyway, so it's really amazing. Some of the pipes, overflowing pipes built at that time. You see, you could almost see the year it was made. I think it was 1903 or something like that. This was probably made in Britain. The colonial government. And yeah, next one, please. This. Again, here, the beauty of it, I think, is really. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah, next one. Yeah, I can see this picture. The next one. So, yeah. One of the walls in here. So, next one, please. Yeah, the close up. And again, this kind of dome-like Romanesque structure. Yeah, keep on going. This was before the renovation. I think some people went in there and took the pictures. Yeah, and this is something new now. They got a shaft built in there. Next one, please. Very old pipe. Again, overflowing pipe. Yeah, close up of the concrete and brickwork. Yeah, and this is new now. They put in some steel frames there so that it won't collapse. Yeah, that's something new as well. So, okay, so history and. 1904 was built. We talk about that, a simple public health, and as I said, it was a cornerstone of waterworks gravitational scheme in Kowloon. Then it started operation in 1906, enabled water supply to fast-growing urban districts, and it supported, of course, the growth of the city. By 1910, Kowloon was transforming into a key commercial and residential zone. And if you had bought a house there at that time, you probably would be very rich now. So the reservoirs capacity and distribution network supported this expansion, allowing for new neighborhoods to be built, a sanitation networks, and water hydrant, for there were fire, that was the first time Hong Kong had any kind of water hydrant, and for industries as well. So its presence reduced reliance on small wells and directly improving public health, and there was cholera at that time when a lot of people died and so on, so forth, and it's just sort of helped. So yeah, and it's probably one of the first large-scale infrastructure built by the colonial government. I think it sort of suddenly it dawned on them, Hong Kong to the British anyway at the time, it was just a place for trading, for doing business and nothing else. Don't talk about politics, I don't care about the people, just give me a place to do business. But it sort of dawned on them at the time, now maybe we should do something about this city. Maybe we should make it a livable place. So that was probably the beginning. And of course, later on, it was decommissioned in 1970. Of course, its use was not as urgent at the time. You got water from China, so that helped a lot. And it wasn't that big by the time now. It grew to be smaller as compared to the other big ones. We have a very big one called Plover Cove Reservoir, where they actually shut off part of the coastline. They built a dam in there and then cut it off, and then the whole place become a big reservoir. So that was another big area, but still it was not enough for water supply for Hong Kong citizens. Still had to import water from China. So, and it was decommissioned in 1970 and was slated to be published in 2017 due to structural concerns. You sort of hold there and sort of kind of dangerously hanging in danger of collapsing. So, and of course the story wants that there's a story to tell. I'm going to tell you the story. It became a Grade 1 historical building in June 2021. Yeah, and then declared by the Antiques Advisory Board. Desmond, were you one of the members?
Not a chairman.
Yeah. Were you one of the members at the time?
Not
that one.
Yeah.
Not that one. So, yeah. And then it was renovated. They put in lights in there, some yellow lights, and made it into kind of a palace-like kind of thing, Hollywood grandeur. So it's now open to the public, but it's very, very popular. You have to book maybe months ahead. The first day of the month, the website would become very busy. You can't even get on it. So it's quite unique to Hong Kong, open to public for viewing. And so that was one part of the document with the counter-gravitation slide to show you that, this kind of antique ancient style. English too is interesting. The English is very interesting. It says 1901. Okay, next slide. Okay, as a heritage site, and the demolition actually began in 2020. They had some big trucks in there, some demolition machines there. Pulled up the hill, and they were supposed to tear it down, but it was stopped by hikers. Actually, just one single woman. Can you show the next one? Next one, please. Yeah, you see this thing there was going to tear it down. The next one. See, you see this woman? This woman was living in the area, single-handedly, she actually stood in front of this big machine kind of thing, and then just held on to the wire, stop it. And you know what? She actually managed to do it. She managed to do it. It stopped. It stopped. The works. So that was quite something. And this is just an ordinary woman, not someone from Greenpeace or any kind of a environmental group. I mean, she was just a hiker. She said, "Well, I always come here, and this is beautiful. Why are you tearing it down?" You see those workmen arguing with her. She was just so sad, She was she wasn't going to argue, but she just stood there, holding on to the wire. Stop. So that was, people actually made a video. I have a video here, but I'm not going to show it. It's don't think at the time. Yeah, that's the video. It says, exposed 100 years old heritage. That's what it says on the it's like hidden in this appeal. Long lady resident blocking dredger. That's called a dredger, to stop demolition works. So she was quite a heroine, and because of that, actually, people took pictures, and it went viral on the internet. So everyone was saying, "Wow, what the hell are you doing? With this beautiful place." So we should stop it. So when the waterworks people actually, when they first discovered this reservoir, well, not discovered, they were discussing to demolish the reservoir. They wrote a report. It said there's just a water tank, it says. And then there's this government agency called the Antiquities and Monument something.
Office.
Yeah, commission or something, raised no objection for demolition. But then, the internet, it's full of pictures, and this lady was on some kind of blog or something like that, and then there was a big outcry. So the place was preserved. Actually, it damaged a little bit, but so now it looks like this. They put in some glass and some windows in there, so it looks very, very nice now. Actually, the next one, please. So that's what it looks like now. It's so clean, and it's got a lot of good lighting, and this is what I should show you. This is a kind of poster, homemade poster made by the people there. You can read Chinese. The Chinese is actually written not very regularly. That is irregular. I mean, grammatical mistakes and something like that. It was printed. It was handwritten, not even printed, on A4 paper, slashed on the newspapers at the back there. I said, "This is a beautiful thing. This is really a beautiful thing." I mean, it just ordinary people. It says that please respect 100 years of history, but Chinese, the characters uses wrong characters, right? And it doesn't even read very well in Chinese. And it said, the people say, this is my translation anyway, I just sort of made it better. The people say, stop the demolition. Stop the demolition. So this is a homemade kind of posters. This is quite something. I mean, so it, miraculously, the whole thing stopped. And then they said, wow, this is something to look at. This is something that we should preserve, for Hong Kong, for generations to come. So that's the story. So it's before that it was sealed and largely forgotten. disappear from public consciousness. But for that lady, but for the people living there, it now become an icon. It now become an icon. So nearly in the anthropological terms, it's kind of a public erasure. History was to be erased, actually. So, and then there was a public awakening, activism, and then the government actually didn't even apologize. They didn't apologize. Well, of course, no. You don't expect the engineers to be sensitive to history or things like that. So to just say this is only a water tank, let's tear it down, and so on and so forth, Antiquities Commission just say, oh sure, let's do it, tear it down. So the story is very, very interesting. So I want to say this, now frequently called the Roman Colosseum of Hong Kong. The reservoir attached to the value of invisible infrastructure as cultural capital, and reveals the fragility and resilience of urban heritage, especially in Hong Kong. Urban heritage actually means nothing. They just, when something gets old, it just got torn down and built something new on it, higher, bigger, taller, more modern. So actually the whole thing relies on chance and activism and collective memory of a generation, my generation, of course, at that time, because it provided water during this drought, this very severe drought, 1963, 1964. So, there was this famous scholar called, I remember, the Veronica Strand, and she contends that water is both a material resource and a culturally embedded substance. So it's not just material, you can get something higher actually on the echelon. So a waterscape is not only physical, but is shaped by technologies, institutions, social relations, and symbolic meanings. And water's flows and boundaries, she argues, Veronica Stern argues, are always the result of negotiation between ecology, society, and politics. There was one thing which I perhaps shouldn't mention, I didn't mention, was, remember the last part there, I said, is that something of a colonial memory? Well, which is not a good word now in Hong Kong, but it shows that that's something that as the colonial government actually did for the Hong Kong people, which you cannot deny it was a good thing. It was a good thing. So there you have it, and so my conclusion is that the Sum Po surface reservoirs is a narrative from a pragmatic solution to a forgotten relic. Nobody remembered it, nobody knew it, well, very seldom people knew it. Then it became an accidental icon. Not a reluctant icon, but an accidental icon. Reminds us that the boundaries between nature, technology, and society are forever fluid. It's not just a reservoir, but a palimpsest of Hong Kong's history, anxieties, and even maybe hopes for the future. Thank you very much. I'm going to entertain some questions now. I'm going to come here to a little bit closer because my left ear is a little bit hard of hearing. So,
Pierre?
yeah.
Yes. Thank you for this interesting presentation, and it's an interesting situation which demonstrates the power of the person
Yeah.
who detains the water resources,
Yeah.
and it's remains an issue we had in France. Is do we give this power to the local public communities?
Yeah.
Or to private firms?
Yeah.
Because access to water, we can be oil dependent, but well, there is a way to get away. But we are water dependent. It's a diff.
Yeah.
So we really much we give such a power to the people in charge of the water that well, in Hong Kong, it's a perfect demonstration of this power because you're dependent of China for the water. And is it a public system? Is it private? How does it work?
What do you mean
The supplier of the water.
Supply water? No, it's run by the government.
It's run by the government.
It's run by the government. As I said, Hong Kong pays annually about 5.2 billion Hong Kong dollars. That would be around 670 something million US dollars per year for water from China. That's why you're very rich. It's run by the government. So it's a good thing that it's run by the government actually. Otherwise, the water rate would have gone up.
Yeah, sure.
But then, there's the problem too, because right now, because there's plenty of water from China, and people don't have to, they don't need to conserve water. There was a study, I think, Hong Kong people use actually three times the water daily, for more than ordinary world citizen. Actually, because we got lots of water coming in. Except nowadays there's the problem of pollution. China is being very highly industrialized now, so they have to go up higher to the street, even further to the interior, to get clean water. Yeah, but really, we have to thank China for water. Otherwise, we can't even shower.
Because the station which use water from the sea is not sufficient.
Water from the sea?
Yeah, you explained in your presentation that there is a station. Salt, it uses salt water converting.
Yeah. We were talking about that too. That's meant for the desalination. They're thinking about it now, again, for some reason. But at that time it was too expensive.
Okay.
It consumed too much energy.
Yeah, sure.
And now there's something new, right? That a new method that converts seawater into fresh water. So maybe, if that happens, that would be good for everybody. I think. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Very interesting, and very interesting to learn that in France we had a similar situation.
Well, in France it depends on the city. We have. It used to be run by the local community, and then the local community give a concession to private firms in some city. In some other, they keep it's still the local community.
Yeah.
We have some example of a city which take back the power. So there are big issues on this subject. Is it run by the public, by the private sector?
Yeah.
It's a political issue.
Yeah, because it could be, because water is so important that this is run by private. Look at the British situation too, and I think the Thames River pollution and that kind of thing is run by private companies, right? So that's the problem. But in Hong Kong, water supply now is very steady, really thanks to China, and you know, when we have lots of water, and we will never, I hope, never go back to 4 hours, 4 days. So my goodness, it was quite something, and you know, it was frantically. And then there were people, you know, because we had high rises in Hong Kong. Sometimes the water pressure cannot go that high because of, you know, you don't have enough water. And people would shout from the top, yeah, turn on your tap, turn on your tap. Well, we don't have any water, you know, you always hear that, you know. There was actually a movie made of it. Yeah. So, interesting. So that is part of collective memory. Water is part of collective memory. Yeah, interesting thing. I know water. So I didn't know anything about it, but you know, for coming to this conference, and I said, well, maybe you know this is an interesting place, and maybe we should talk about it. And then I sort of delved a little bit more into it, and it's a very good topic. And wow, there's much more than that. Much more than just you know drinkable water. Use it to bathe, but you know. And that kind of thing. There's a lot more to it. Yeah, so thank you again for your question.
Thank you. John, you had a question?
Thank you. Yeah, just to continue something we were discussing at the coffee break.
Yeah, right. You could tell us something about this new technology.
I can tell you about the technologies of desalination in a moment, but I wanted to start with something a bit different. There are many fascinating aspects in the story you tell, but one aspect I find extremely interesting is how it's that material connection between present and past, which is construction.
Yeah.
Construction projects very literally dig into the past to create the present. And in many countries, including in Hong Kong, as you explained, preventative archaeology has become one of the key institutional mechanisms by which that very material connection, you need to build something new so you have to dig down into the past, has become a way of recovering the past, including recovering the past to public consciousness. And there have been some very famous cases. One particularly famous case in the UK was when they were digging up a car park to build some new facility, and they found no less than the skeleton of Richard III, King of England, killed in battle in 1485 and long lost to human consciousness. We walk and live and breathe on a carpet of bones and pottery and demolished stones that are the material trace of the past. And of course we've always known this, but our archaeological consciousness and the administrative mechanisms that in many countries require construction projects to be halted to allow archaeologists to explore what has been revealed, I think shows in a very stark, bright light the nature of this connection.
Yeah.
And we're perhaps more conscious of it today than we used to be, though you can find 19th century writings in the same spirit, talking about how you are sort of walking on the debris of the past. And that resonates in the case of waterscapes, but it's also a more general point with one of the ideas that we built, Nuno and I, into the project of the UNESCO chair, which is how to think in new ways about a museum project that can capture that connection of the past as present. And that image of digging into the past to anchor the present and build the future, literally build the future, is I think extremely powerful and interesting. And I'd be interested to hear comments on that, including of course comments from the professional archaeologist in the room. Now on desalination we can talk separately, But the new technologies referred to are technologies of so-called reverse osmosis. In other words, special kinds of membranes that are constructed in such a way that when the water is subjected to a modest electrical current, not necessarily a current strong enough to actually desalinate the water directly, the water flows in such a way that basically the salt gets caught in the membrane. And this massively reduces the energy cost of desalination, because traditional desalination is very simple technically. You just boil the water, and when you recondense it, the salt is gone. But boiling large amounts of water consumes large amounts of energy, very obviously. So there is, and at small scale this works very well. The question is whether it's scalable to the size of a city. And no one really knows yet. This is a technological frontier.
Yeah.
But the idea that we don't need to worry about fresh water anymore because we're just going to desalinate the oceans and problem solved
exactly.
is, first of all, probably technologically naive, and secondly, like every attempt to turn scarcity into abundance, loses the leverage that scarcity can have for behavioral and institutional transformations that, by living with scarcity, create forms of frugality, as was being discussed yesterday. Contextual frugality, of course. I was very struck, sorry, I'm rambling here, very struck by a visit a few years ago to Abu Dhabi, which massively desalinates, knows it's not sustainable, has some of the highest per capita water use in the world, way higher than Hong Kong, and knows very well that that path is radically non-sustainable with population growth. Other options need to be developed, and the options, of course, to some extent are technical, but they're also behavioral and institutional. And the perception of scarcity can be a positive lever for change, so long as it's integrated not into queuing for water and organizing rationing and so on, but into a form of co-constructed self-reflection on the issues of water scarcity, which is what we were already discussing yesterday.
That's right, yeah, that's right. And, well, you sort of brought out the point that, you know, whether or not human progress actually can solve the problem for all of us, and whether or not we maybe be too materialistic, the materiality may be a little bit too much burden on us, on human beings, and I think probably, and you know, that could turn into something else, maybe even better for us, also for humanities as well. But you know, as we Chinese say, is that wu ji bi fan, is when you go, when things go into one extreme, it goes back, it comes back, in the other way. So, yeah, thank you very much for the question, and thank you for sharing the new technologies. Thank you.
Okay, if we have time. Yeah, no, I will be very brief because I was interested in this process, because when you presented this case of a single woman stopping the destruction of the heritage, there are two dimensions. Well, I'm asking, this is a question. There are potentially two dimensions involved. One is a change in mindset, in the way you look into the remains of the past. Yeah. But there's also, often these things are intertwined, a political statement. So my question was, if this interest on heritage in Hong Kong has also some connection with some kind of political attitude, which is, for example, what happens in different parts.
As I said, it's something that I sort of touch upon. That is the, remember the last slide there, it says the colonial memory.
Yeah.
because this is not something that we would like to talk about now. But it certainly, it does, brings back some memories, and some people in Hong Kong are kind of being nostalgic as a matter of fact. It brings out the fact that, human beings maybe, when they're not too satisfied with their present situation, they'll go back, they'll construct another memory from themselves. And that is why in Hong Kong too, society now is very nostalgic. People will go back to eating traditional food, traditional way, traditional art, and that kind of thing. And that was something. And some people would say that, well, with this and with this memory, it actually is a kind of a self-rating of Hong Kong identity. That we are Hong Kong, we're not British, 100%, and we're not 100% Chinese. So that's why we're different. That's why we're different. And that, a lot of people are thinking that way. Of course, Hong Kong would never think of independence, and I think it would be good for Hong Kong. But they want to be different. They want to be different, to be treated differently. And the political situation, water, of course, is a big problem politically for Hong Kong, because sometimes the Chinese say, if you don't follow my ways, I'll cut off the water for you. And then you'll be in big time trouble. Well, I never do that. Never do that. Never do that.
Xiaoshun is on you, right?
We are actually eternally thankful. So, it really did happen, especially at the time when there was the colonial government. Colonial government. And right now, the Hong Kong government, as I said, it's run by the government is a good thing. In a way, because we haven't raised the water rates for a long, long time. You know why? It's political. It's political. And so it is. It could be a very political situation, but right now it's going quite well. It's doing quite well, and so Hong Kong people in terms of water, they're very happy actually. So yeah, but I don't know. It could become a very touchy situation because we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful. Well, which is true. I mean, really, what can you do without water?
Yeah.
Without even the reservoirs are only 20% of daily use can be supplied by all the big reservoirs. There's so many people in Hong Kong. What can you do? What can you do with that? So we have to rely on our great motherland to rescue us from this particular case. So, in which we're, as I said, eternally grateful for that. But it could turn political anytime. Could turn political anytime. It happened before, I think, so.
Would you allow me a small follow-up comment? Very short.
Very short, yes, because then we have to lunch.
Hong Kong, of course, has its specific history, which is different in many ways from other places. But it's very interesting what you say, and it rhymes with the conversation we were having yesterday at dinner about another port city. Port cities, cities that have been defined historically by their relationship to oceanic trade, often have a strong perception that they are special with respect to their hinterland. And Liverpool in England is a very good example of that perception of
That's right.
being special.
Yeah.
Marseille in France is a good example of that perception of feeling special. So I think at some point, probably this is part of the social and imaginative geography of ports, that they build the oceanscape, both the literal, logistical one and the imaginary one, in terms of something being special compared to places inland which are boring and provincial, whereas we are open to the world. And of course, there's more in Hong Kong than just that. But I suspect there's also something of that in the case of Hong Kong, as in the other cities I mentioned, and there are many other cases.
Well, we were talking about that. He is very good in terms we call feng shui. Feng shui. And cities like Hong Kong maybe it's got good feng shui, and some of the Liverpool maybe, and I think Singapore as well.
Yes.
Singapore is a good example too. I mean, the situation, of course, it's an independent country, which is quite different from Hong Kong. But, the situation was kind of similar. And we're talking about Goa too. So,
If I may say something, I don't want to trigger a stroke on Nuno. He's getting nervous about what.
Nervous about the picture.
No, but it was only an observation because of what you said, John, about ports. And I think, in a sense, also riverine communities have this sense. And I think historically there's a different mindset in terms of farmers on one hand and riverine people, because riverine people like traders move around, so they have a scale of the world which is very vast. Farmers don't. Riverine people, even when they are not traders, they move in the same kind of roads of the traders, and they have a better notion of trade and therefore of the size of the world. And I think this makes it really different. They're more cosmopolite, they're more intercultural, more open, less suspicious, and we see that almost everywhere in the world.
That's right.
And if you ever come to Macau, I will take you to a village, Ortiga, and it's amazing because we're talking about a municipality of now slightly more than 6,000 people, and then there's different small villages. There's one village of 330 people. That's and it's a riverine, and it's completely, and they feel themselves as being different, and they are actually much more energetic. Every time they reason, they think in long distance. The people of Ortiga will think of Madrid. The people of Macau, with luck, they will think of Lisbon. People of Ortiga, for them, Madrid is just round the corner. He wants, in the end, he wants the picture, because we don't have lunch, right? We only have a picture.
Is leaving.
Okay.
We have a picture of lunch.
We have a picture to take.
Thank you. A meeting for lunch.
À l'accueil, vous savez, il y a le grand mur.
Okay, donc on va au premier étage pour prendre. You can leave your things here because we close the doors and